I'll let you in on a little secret. This year does not have to feel rushed or stressful or overwhelming. If you are craving a calmer, happier year, here are 10 things that you can focus on to actually enjoy and savor life, to slow down, to focus on what matters most to you. The first thing and the last thing are personal favorites. Let's go. Hey, how's it going? It's Laura, and I have spent the last decade learning to simplify and slow down. Back then, I was suffering from postnatal depression after having my daughter, and it became a turning point for me. So here are the biggest ways that I have been able to let go of hustle culture and really take care of me. Now, because I suffer from depression and also because I have done the KonMari method, I have put a huge emphasis on joy in my life. Like, I have really focused on purpose and happiness. I have prioritized joy and really tried to live with that feeling. I think so much of our time is spent on things that we feel that we should do rather than on things that we actually want to do. Somewhere along the way, don't know when exactly this happened, but we learned that to-do lists were for like the boring things, the things that you had to do, and we ended up leaving fun out of it. Like, we tried to squeeze fun in if we had time and energy left at the end of the day. So it led to us leading what I call this leftover life, where you're trying to create a life you love out of those leftover moments. There's also this sense, and I have very much been fighting against this, I mean, pretty much all my life, but there is this sense that we should be grown-ups. You know, that fun and frivolity and silliness and wearing bright colors or fun things, splashing in puddles, running wild and free, that's just for kids. But listen, frolicking is for grown-ups too. And it doesn't always have to be like these big things. It doesn't always have to be these big gestures. It doesn't always have to be about wildness. But sometimes my life feels full and calm and happy when I focus on the small joys in life. You know, like just reading or baking or going to get ice cream, going to the library, sitting outside with my dog and just watching the clouds go by. So add fun back onto your to-do list. Prioritize joy in all its shapes and forms, in as many different ways as you can, as often as you can, in as many different areas of your life as you can. A little bit of joy goes a long way. Speaking of prioritizing things, try to set the tone for your day early on, even the night before. How you start your day can completely change how the rest of the day feels. And no, you don't have to have some long and complicated morning routine. It doesn't have to be difficult. You don't have to have every second meticulously mapped out. But just knowing what you would like to do, like how you would like to start your day and how you are going to get yourself moving, how you're going to build momentum, that is how you set yourself up for success. It might be having your outfits planned in advance. It might be having your lunch or your bag packed. Just easing into your day instead of rushing and racing and reacting to everything. And yes, listen, your day might go south. Stuff happens. But don't start your day on the back foot. I find that if I have to race through my morning, then I spend the whole day feeling like I'm behind. Even if I actually get everything done, I've done it in such a frantic way that I don't feel good about it. So even if at the end of the day, you know, everything gets checked off the list and I do all the things I want to do, if I don't start the day right, it definitely affects how I feel about the rest of the day. A really simple way to put this into practice, and this is something that I do anytime I feel like my days are kind of just running away with me, that I don't have a good handle on them, is to set a specific intention. I know that can sometimes sound a little bit wishy-washy, but something that I do is I will specifically intend to notice the trees in the park where I walk the dog. Because if I'm in a hurry, or if I feel like I'm in a hurry, I will just race through the park. I'll be walking as fast as I can. My mind will be preoccupied. But on the days where I truly take the time to notice the trees and the leaves and the shapes and colors and the structures, those are the days that I feel better, because I have allowed myself to feel a sense of wonder, a sense of amazement, a sense of curiosity. I've started my day with joy, and it doesn't actually take any extra time. All it takes is a little bit of extra attention. So try setting one small intention for yourself for the day and see if it doesn't make your days feel slower and lighter and happier. Now, like I said, sometimes your day goes south, but I have noticed that very often, I am actually the culprit. Like, I am the one to blame for this. I kind of allowed my day to go south because of my actions or because of my inaction. So I agreed to do something that I didn't really want to do, and now it is eating into my time and my energy. Or I just packed my to-do list and now I feel overwhelmed. Or I didn't take care of something that I should have, and now I'm feeling the consequences. That is why one thing that I have been practicing a lot in recent years is setting boundaries around my time and my energy. I have cut out a lot of negative people. I have prioritized my downtime. I have said no to a lot of opportunities. You know, we're always hearing that we should say yes to everything. We should seize every opportunity. But hidden in every yes is a no to something else. And let's face it, that is usually our mental health. It can feel bad saying no to things. It can feel like you are missing out or that you are upsetting someone. But just like every yes carries a hidden no, setting a boundary means that you are seizing the opportunity to rest and to be your best self and to live a calm and fulfilling life. Saying no to stress means saying yes to peace. And you do not have to be perfect at this right off the bat. Like, this is something that I am still working on. But just choose one thing that you are going to say no to, or cross one thing off your to-do list. See how it feels, and then proceed from there. If you'd like some suggestions, if you're not really sure about what you could say no to, then in my last video I shared 10 things that I am leaving behind, 10 things that I am letting go of. I'm gonna go ahead and link that for you right here. But the more you learn to say no, and the more things you say no to, the better your life is going to feel. The lighter your life is going to feel, the more open your life is going to feel. Now, this next one is something that I've kind of I've always tried to do it, but in the last year or so, I have really doubled down on it, and it has made a massive difference. So I am a perfectionist at heart. And while there are many wonderful things about being a perfectionist, like anything, it does have its downsides. But I have learned to let go of all or nothing thinking, this go big or go home mentality, and really leaning into small wins, micro improvements. I will say I don't like that phrase, progress over perfection. I know everyone says that. I don't like that. And if you're a perfectionist, you probably don't like that, because the truth is that to you, to me, progress will never come over perfection. It will never be better than perfection. So the way that I like to think of it is progress towards perfection. Every little success I have, or even every little failure, is getting me closer to nailing whatever I am trying to achieve. Listen, there's a lot to be said for big goals, They're exciting, but if we're only ever focusing on big goals, on things that are, kind of harder to achieve, then it's going to feel overwhelming, and eventually you're going to feel discouraged and defeated. Probably every single time I have set a big goal for myself, at some point down the road, I have wanted to quit. I've wanted to throw in the towel because it feels like too much. It feels like too much work. It feels like too much effort, particularly when you're not seeing that payoff pretty instantly. Like, nobody wants to slog away at something when the payoff is so far into the future. Even if it's a big payoff, if it's too far away or if it feels too far away, you're not going to want to put in the work day in and day out. The truth is, we're more motivated by things that are right in front of us. So that is why I now focus on those small wins. That's how I motivate myself. My goal is something that is easily achievable. It's achievable pretty quickly. And so it gives me that motivation to get there. And once I get there, it builds momentum so that I can keep going to the next goal and the next goal. And eventually I will get to a big goal. It is why, after years of trying to achieve certain goals and kind of like getting nowhere, I have finally now started to tick some of them off my list. It's because I focused on the very cliche journey instead of only on the destination. If you focus on the foundations first, and you celebrate every little brick that you put in place, you will be amazed at how big and how bright a future you can build. Now, speaking of foundations, there is one thing that is the foundation of your day, your week, your month, basically the foundation of your life. That is your routines. You can rise or fall by your routines. The things you do day in and day out determine essentially how your life turns out. Good routines lead to good results. But the trouble is, we tend to overcomplicate them, and I am so guilty of this. Like, particularly around New Year's, I used to think that I would have to have the perfect routine on January 1st and then continue to have that routine every day thereafter, but I would be trying to get in like an hour-long workout. I would be trying to drink 8 glasses of water. I would be trying to do like really intense, focused, deep work on something groundbreaking. I would be trying to spend lots of quality time with family and friends. I would be cooking all my meals from scratch, and in no way was any of that actually sustainable. It was a hard lesson to learn, and actually, if I'm being honest, I think I've only really learned it in the last few months. It's only recently that I've started to simplify my routine. So like my workout routine. So I mentioned in recent videos where I have really simplified and streamlined my workout routine because I could never stick to a like full-on hour-long sweat session. So a few months ago, I started by doing some very gentle exercise for just a few minutes. So I roll out of bed in the morning. I actually go into my closet, it's right over here, and roll out a yoga mat, and I just do some very basic exercise, some very basic stretching for literally a few minutes in the morning. And because that is more sustainable for me, I've actually managed to do it almost every single day ever since. Routines do not have to be complicated. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be rigid. The best routines are simple, they are flexible, and probably most importantly of all, they are sustainable. They're the ones that actually work for you and continue to work for you. Like, your routine should feel like an anchor that roots you and not one that weighs you down. And like, with setting boundaries, you don't have to be great at this right off the bat, but pick one routine that you have and choose one element of it to simplify, just one small step of it that you're going to streamline, or even choose one part of it that you're just going to completely cut out. Strip away the unnecessary elements. I think we have this tendency to make things difficult for ourselves. You know, we make things much harder than they need to be. But I guarantee that if you ask yourself, what is truly essential here? Like, what is really important about this? You are going to have a much more simple, a much more streamlined routine that runs a lot smoother. Now, speaking of routines and getting things done, plus the negative or mistaken beliefs that we have around that, we have a tendency to separate rest and productivity. You know, we think that one comes after the other. We tend to think of them as being mutually exclusive. So someone who isn't trying to simplify their lives, someone who is deep in hustle culture and that kind of like more mentality, will believe that rest, if it comes at all, comes after a period of intense productivity. Someone who is starting out on their simplifying journey believes that rest comes before productivity. But if you have truly mastered simplicity, you will know that rest is part of productivity. You know, there are two sides of the same coin. It is really difficult to be productive if you are not well rested, but on the flip side, it's actually difficult to fully rest and recharge if you haven't really done anything. You know, that's when you feel restless. Rest is an essential part of productivity. You know, it's not something that is completely separate from it. It's not something that's like way out there. It doesn't come before it or after it. It's not an indulgence. It is a necessary ingredient of productivity. Taking breaks, making sure that you are getting enough sleep, having some quiet moments throughout your day, those are not luxuries. Those are not signs that, you know, you're not working hard enough. They're just a necessary part of the process. And if you don't believe that, then try cutting out rest completely. See how far that gets you. Prioritize rest as part of your productivity plan. Now, I mentioned that kind of more mentality. The only time I embrace this philosophy is when it comes to decorating the Christmas tree. Okay, otherwise, no. Less is more, or also less but better. And this applies to so many different areas of your life. This could be your schedule, your commitments, even your possessions. You do not want to spread yourself too thin. You don't want to dilute yourself. You want a concentrated dose of energy and joy. Now, if you're struggling with this, and honestly, who wouldn't, because of all the messages we get, like the messaging that we are bombarded with on a daily basis from multiple different sources, but ask yourself this simple question: who benefits from you doing loads more? Who benefits from you buying loads more? Because I can tell you now, it is certainly not you. On the flip side though, when you focus on less, you make space for more peace, more energy, more joy, more space, more of what matters. Remember that saying no to something allows you to say yes to something else. So start to notice where you have that more mentality and ask yourself what it's actually costing you, and would taking a less approach actually be a better investment? And listen, there are very few quicker ways to feel good about your life than practicing gratitude. Now, I do have a few disclaimers here. I want to add those, but I'll come back to them in a second. Anytime I have struggled with this, anytime I've struggled to practice gratitude or feel grateful, I always come back to this piece of wisdom, which says that if everyone were to throw their problems into a pot and they had to pick one, you would be lucky to get your own problems back. When I see what other people are struggling with, I count my blessings. Now, I said there were some disclaimers. One of them is this big caveat that just because you are grateful, you're thankful for what you have, does not mean that you can't empathize with someone else if they are struggling. It also does not mean that you are selfish if you are struggling. Practicing gratitude doesn't mean that you'll never have problems. And it doesn't mean that you need to minimize them if you do have them. It's not a case of, well, I shouldn't feel bad because someone else has it worse. Someone will always have it worse than you. Someone will always have it better than you. Your job is simply to acknowledge and appreciate what you do have that makes you happy. So I mentioned earlier that one of the things that I do if my days are starting to feel a little stale is that I will focus on the trees in the park. This gives me a huge sense of joy and wonder, but also gratitude. I'm grateful that I get to see and experience them. I'm grateful that I have such a great park that is within walking distance. I'm grateful that I get to experience the seasons changing. I'm grateful for the shelter that the trees give to the animals and the birds. I'm grateful for the shade it gives me in the summer. I've often scoffed at the idea of writing a gratitude list because I feel like sometimes it can become a chore. It can just seem like something else that you have to do, and you start doing it thoughtlessly. Like you just write down 3 things you're grateful for. There's not much thought or intention behind it. But when you focus on gratitude as a feeling instead of as an exercise, that changes everything. Anyone can sit down and write down a list of 3 things they're grateful for, but it's the person who truly feels grateful, who sits with that is going to benefit from it. So instead of just writing it down or thinking it or even saying it aloud, try to focus on the feeling. Try really soaking it in, focus on one thing and really immerse yourself in that. Really go deep with it. Now, I know we've talked about simplifying routines. We've talked about taking those baby steps, focusing on those small wins. But for this section, I want to focus specifically on goals. Listen, goals are great. Okay, it's great to have a sense of purpose and a sense of direction. It's nice to feel like you're moving towards something. But don't get so focused on the finish line that you feel that you can't change your route. So I used to set goals that were really rigid. Again, it was that like all or nothing thinking. And then it didn't matter if I started to feel resistance towards it as the year went on. It didn't matter if it was overwhelming to me or if it was starting to exhaust me. I had set them, and so I had to achieve them. Anything else would be a failure. But I think now when I'm focusing on just the step that's in front of me, it makes it a lot easier for me to pivot. It makes it a lot easier for me to recognize that I'm not aligned with something anymore and I don't have to keep going down that path. I could take a detour and explore other opportunities and other avenues. I'm not so blindly focused on the finish line that is so far out that I can't see what's right in front of me. I'm not so blindly following one path that I block off any other explorations or adventures that I might be able to pursue. I've started to notice over the years that it's actually not about the goal. It's actually about what comes after the goal. It's about why you're chasing that goal. It's not about the finish line. It's what comes after the finish line. It's about where it will lead, how you will feel afterwards, how it will change your life, how your life will be better afterwards. And so now I am much more aware and accepting of the fact that goals can be flexible. There are many different ways that you can get to a destination. There are many different ways to feel healthy or to feel financially secure or to strengthen your relationships. So don't get so focused on the finish line that you forget why you're trying to get there in the first place. Stay open to the possibility of a better way of doing things or a quicker or easier way to get what you want. A goal is great, but it's actually what's behind the goal that really counts. That's what you're really aiming for. It's not about the goal, it's about what comes with the goal. It's what it means to you. So if you stay flexible, you are much more likely to end up getting what you truly want. And listen, a list like this coming from me would not be complete if it didn't include decluttering. And I'm not just talking about your physical space, but tackling mental clutter can really simplify your life too, if not more so. Now, you might be overwhelmed by what to get rid of, which is why I have taken the guesswork out of it for you. I created a playlist of what to get rid of each and every month of the year. All you have to do is follow along, and you can save it so you can keep referring back to it month after month as you slowly strip away the clutter and live a simpler, happier life. Until then, go raibh míle maith agaibh, agus feici mé sibh go luath. Slán!